Okay, I think we might make a start. I think everyone who will be joining, they can just catch up once they join the session, but we might make a start for time purpose. So welcome everyone to the pathway sessions that are offered by the business school. So in case you're in the wrong place, today's session will be covering all the different offering at the business school, as well as pathway to studying at the business school in case you don't necessarily get the direct score that you need to come through. So next slide, Joe, please. So joining me today, well, firstly, my name is Karen. I'm the Faculty Partnership Manager looking after the business school portfolio in our Sydney Future Students team. So I'm very delighted and happy today to be joined by two colleagues from our business school, Heather Robson, who's the Manager of our Education Support and Student Success, as well as Nadia, who is our expert in the Student Experience Program Coordinator. And Heather and Nadia will be speaking to you a little while later, a little bit more about the pathway to the business school and all the different options available to students. We're also very excited to be joined by one of our recent graduate, our alumnus, Mr. Vince Lam today, and we'll be inviting Vince to share his University Sydney journey, as well as give us an update on what he's been up to since his graduation. Vince is also our Bachelor of Commerce an advanced study graduate, in addition to being our E12 and Inspired by Business Scholarship recipient. Next slide. So coming to the University of Sydney as an undergraduate, you basically be expecting a lot of different, transition and a lot of different sort of things to how you study at high school. So one thing that we can reassure you is you'll be supported from day one. And this is right before, or even before you step through the doors to come to our campus to study. Many things, including, peer mentoring support, Maths in Business workshop, as well as, our careers office are on offer to every student from day one. So traditionally, we obviously would have a welcome week in person, but at the moment, as you can imagine, things are online, but all these things are still being offered to our students in a digital platform, and you'll still have plenty of opportunity to interact and engage with fellow students as well as our staff through many of our additional services, such as our PASS program, which is a peer assist study session that you'll be paired up with some of our senior students and offer those support. So, and in addition to obviously what you learn in the classroom, there's things outside like the clubs and society, which University of Sydney is known for our vibrant campus environment. So I want to talk a little bit more about the CEO, which is our Careers Employability Office. This is a dedicated service to our business students. Of course, across the university, there's a careers office, but then because the career and employability of our business student is so important to our business school students, we have a dedicated service, an additional team who looks after this component within the business school if you join us as a business school student. So all the usual things that you'll expect, like networking and employability skills workshop, as well as through the CEO office, we will help you find industry experience opportunities and run many different careers workshops that would then give you a lot of opportunity to hone in on your employability skills from day one before obviously you venture out into the business world, into the next step of beyond graduation and beyond your bachelor studies. Next slide, please. So here are a sample of some of our partners, our corporate partners that work very closely with the business school, as well as especially our careers office. As you can see, there are a lot of very familiar brand and familiar company names there. So I don't think any of these will come as a surprise to you. We do work not just with big names and banks, but we also work with government and not-for-profit as well. So a whole suite of different employment opportunities and partnership throughout the journey that you study with us. And a lot of these partners, corporate partners, will obviously be partnering with us throughout your journey to give you some insight while you're studying with us and before you step out into the corporate world. So next slide. One of these opportunities is our industry placement program, or IPP. This is essentially, think of it as like an internship. So in the later part of your degree, after you learn some core activities, core curriculum in your first year, we would then invite you to participate in the IPP, and essentially this will count as at least one of your unit. So this will allow you to partner with a corporate partner of ours, and then depending on which area that you are majoring in or you wish to expand your knowledge in, we'll try and partner you up with one of our corporate partners so that you can then gain that insight and that hands-on experience as one of your unit within your degree. So as you can see, some of the partners, which is sort of similar to the previous slide, it's Deloitte, Macquarie Bank, PwC. This won't come as a surprise. Obviously, being a business school, a lot of our students aspire to work in many of these big name companies. But as I mentioned earlier, there's also a lot of smaller as well as private sector and government and not-for-profit as well as rural area where we partner with different areas and association where we can get these opportunities for students to do our internship and IPP as well. So next slide. So apart from internship and careers opportunity, of course, part of studying at a university is also experiencing that diverse exposure to different network of students, whether that's other students in other faculty, which of course, Sydney University is a big university, so you have plenty of opportunity to engage and meet, students from other areas and other faculties as well, but to also meet students from different countries, not just within the classroom, but, beyond that. So of course, many of our students do embark on exchange, and that could be 6 months or maybe a year. At the moment, obviously, the exchange with the borders being closed, we are still facilitating some of these opportunities through the online platform. Hopefully, by the time you join us, the world will be in a position to send you overseas again on the actual exchange overseas. So some of these are listed on there, but apart from the exchange, full-fledged exchange, we do have study tours which are shorter in duration. And Vince, actually, I know he went on some of these exchange and study tours, so we might get him to share his experience later on and tell you a little bit more about that. So we have over 250 international partners, so it's one of the biggest exchange program that's on offer in Australia. So in terms of what you can study, so for our undergraduate courses, essentially there's one flagship program, which is our Bachelor of Commerce. So if you come into our Bachelor of Commerce, it's a 3-year program full-time in length. As you can see from the table on the slide in front of you, it constitutes one major. So within the 3, you can study a major and a minor or 2 majors. So if you then decide to do the Bachelor of Commerce and Bachelor Advanced Study, or BAS, then that's an additional 1 year. So think of it as a 3+1. And in that 4th year, you'll be able to pursue either an additional in-depth learning, or if you're interested in doing research or advanced coursework, such as like honors, then that's also an opportunity for you to do that within the BAS component as well. So for high achieving students who get a very, very high ATAR of 98+, you will also be invited to our Bachelor of Commerce BAS DL program. So that's a specialized area for students who basically meet high GPA, high ATAR, so 98+, or if you're doing IB, 40+. So this one is very similar to basically the BCom BAS, but it allows high achieving students to have additional enrichment opportunities. So we do offer a couple of combined degree as well, commerce with advanced computing or engineering. And then another popular one is commerce law, which takes this degree to 5 years, but you do graduate with 2 bachelors. So these are some of the areas or majors or minors that you can take within the business school. The typical ones like accounting, banking, finance, business information system, industrial relation or human resource, marketing and international business. So I don't think any of these will come as a surprise to any of you interested in pursuing business. However, next slide, please. We do also offer as a second major, you can actually dip into what we call a share pool of majors. So these are all the majors that are offered outside of the business school. So essentially you could graduate with, let's say in the Bachelor of Commerce, 1 major in finance, And the second major can be any of these ones that, we've listed some examples on the slide here, but there are more than 100 to choose from. So you could do finance, and then maybe a language, finance or visual arts, finance or, neuroscience even. So there's a lot of flexibility in the program that we offer. So without further ado, I might now introduce Heather and invite Heather and Nadia to talk a little bit more about the pathway to studying at business.
Okay, certainly. Thank you so much, Karen. So what I'm going to whip you guys through is how you can study business. We'll start with the assumption that everything goes perfectly to plan and you are able to attain an ATAR of 96, and then you would be able to go into the Bachelor of Commerce, the Bachelor of Commerce and Advanced Studies, or a combined commerce, in particular, the Advanced Computing or Engineering. Get the 98, BCom, BAS with DL, and then 1995 Commerce and Law. Then there's a number of opportunities, though, available to you to go into the Bachelor of Commerce if you don't end up getting the ATAR. And so that's kind of what I'm going to be focusing on now. So if you don't end up with that 96, you might consider other programs within the university that have a shared pool of majors. So if you do, for example, a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science, then you can, within that degree, take a major from arts or science, but then combine that with a business school major. And so even if you're not landing on the ATAR for a BCom, that's okay. There's still other degrees that are going to allow you to study business school units to come out with an accounting major or a finance major. Equally, a fairly common combination is for students to opt to take a Bachelor of Economics and then to take a finance major, for example, or to pair that with an accounting major. So even if you're not landing on the 96, you can consider other University of Sydney degrees, such as the Bachelor of Arts, Science, or Economics, and then pair that with a business school major. There's a number of other admissions pathways into business, though, besides those other degrees. And what we're going to take you through is a number of those, which are set out for you here. In particular, the E12 scheme, that's the one that I want to start off with. So the E12 scheme is moving beyond looking at students just in terms of ATAR and subject selection and kind of taking a more holistic approach to them. So students who've experienced financial disadvantage can apply for, or who come from a rural background within New South Wales, can apply for the E12 scheme. Now with this, students receive an early conditional offer in mid-November. So it kind of gives a little bit of certainty around what's going to be happening in the coming year. It also drops the ATAR from a 96 down to an 85. The benefit of this is that there is a scholarship for the first year, so that comes in at $5,950. And also E12 students are prioritised for scholarships in the event that they want to study abroad if they're going to go on exchange. So the E12 pathway, I think, is definitely one that's worthwhile looking into if you have experienced some form of disadvantage. We're really excited to learn about students through their applications as well, how they've contributed to the community, what their interest in studying business is, and the achievements that are the most important to them. And the reason that we get really excited about E12, and Nadia is going to talk about this in a moment, is that it kind of it gives you an opportunity to showcase your interest, and then we use that as a feeder into the Inspired by Business Scholarship, which she'll tell you about in a second. But basically with this, we're looking for students to have demonstrated that they've experienced some form of financial hardship. They might have resided at the time in an area that's been classified by the Australian Bureau of Statistics as being in the lowest 25% of socioeconomic disadvantage in Australia, or if they've attended a New South Wales rural or regional school during year 11 and or year 12. So there's a couple of deadlines to be mindful of, and in particular, this one here up on the screen is the most relevant one for E12. I'm going to ask Nadia to talk a little bit about the Inspired by Business Scholarship, because this is something that's available to students who come in via the E12 pathway or who qualify.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks so much. My role as a Student Experience Programs Coordinator is a pastoral care role, and I spend a lot of time with E12 and Inspired by Business students. And the Inspired by Business program is an add-on basically to the E12 scholarship program. Students who are applying with the financial disadvantage are eligible to be considered for the Inspired by Business program. If you're applying for the E12 scholarship, you don't have to do anything extra. You will automatically be considered for the Inspired by Business program. A number of students who apply through the E12 program will then be invited to come and do an interview, and considering what the world looks like right now, it's likely to be an online one as opposed to in person. And then a number of students will be offered, again, a conditional offer for the Inspired by Business Scholarship program. The program involves a financial component, so students who are successful in the Inspired by Business program will receive $10,000 additional dollars on top of the original E12 $5,000 per year of their degree. So if they're doing the 4-year degree of the Bachelor of Commerce and Advanced Studies, it's $40,000. If they decide to do the Bachelor of Commerce, it's $30,000. And those are the two degrees that this is eligible for. And it's accompanied by a range of support networks, including a student mentor who is either an E12 student or a senior Inspired by Business student, and they're available for the first year, and as well as a lot of the opportunities that come through the business school for students for maybe for jobs or for workshops, or there's a whole lot of other things that sort of come through that we get requested to handpick students. Often those are the students who get first option to participate in those things.
Thank you so much for that, Nadia. Okay, so if the E12 is quite specific to students who've gone to rural or remote schools or have experienced financial disadvantage, the Broadway scheme is a much broader way of looking at the ways that students' education might have been disrupted in Year 12, because we also have to acknowledge that, look, it's great if everything goes to plan, but also life happens. And so this is our way of facilitating students' pathways in to the Bachelor of Commerce. So the Broadway scheme acknowledges that there might be a number of forms of disruption that students experience: disrupted schooling, financial hardship, personal illness and disability, perhaps their school environment, or socioeconomic index for the area in which they spent their grade 12. And with the Broadway scheme, it also reduces the ATAR point at which students might come in to the Bachelor of Commerce. Then the next one that is of particular interest is the Academic Excellence Scheme. And so this recognises high performance in English and maths by applying adjustment factors to boost your selection rank. In other words, if you receive a band 5 or 6 in HSC English Advanced, then it will bump up the way that we treat your ATAR by 5 points. That is to say, a 91 would be viewed as a 96. 5 points also would be available for English Extension 1 or 2 if you get an E4. And then for IB, 5, 6 or 7 in IB English A. Equally, 5 additional points if you receive a band 6 or 5 in mathematics, and then it would be 3, and then there's additional, so that there's a kind of split points. So it's 3 if you get a band 5, and then 5 if you get a band 6 in mathematics. Okay, so I talked earlier about potentially studying other degrees, and then you being able to access business school majors via alternative degrees. Another option besides is to start in a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Economics, complete a full year worth of study, and then with a sufficiently high weighted average mark following a year of study, then transferring into the Bachelor of Commerce. If you studied less than a year full time, then we would look at your ATAR still. But if you have performed really, really well in a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Economics, then you would be able to do a transfer in if that's something that you wanted to do. And then the maths prerequisite. So there's a maths prerequisite for the Bachelor of Commerce. If you don't meet that maths prerequisite, you might undertake one of the maths MOOC, which is available at the start of the year. Or you could take a maths unit within a different degree program, meet the prerequisite by completing that unit, and then transfer over into the Bachelor of Commerce following that. Okay, at this point, I'm going to throw it back to Karen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heather and Nadia, for giving us that insight about the different pathway. So I know some of you probably, and I've been monitoring the question that's come through, do populate your question into our Q&A, and we will have definitely time to address some of those questions at the end. So we might hold off the questions and answering some of those until the end. Right now, I'm very excited to invite Vince to join us to share a little bit about his University of Sydney journey, as particularly, you know, his journey through the business school in our Bachelor of Commerce. So Vince, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi there. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Vince is our recent graduate in our Bachelor of Commerce and Bachelor Advanced Studies, so the 4-year option. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about what he studied throughout his 4 years with us. And he is also our E12 and IBB recipient as well. So over to you, Vince. Thank you.
Excellent. So hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining this session today. It feels like yesterday that I was in the same boat as you, kind of looking at different university options. I completely understand kind of the feelings that you're having as well, and particularly during these times as well, how it must be a challenge. However, you know, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and university is also a very exciting time as well. In terms of what I do, I currently work at a marketing agency called 555, which focuses on market research and also brand consultancy. So a lot of work that happens around that when it comes to informing ads, helping brands develop, helping identify new product opportunities, kind of different range of things, which is what I love doing. And this all kind of stemmed from my studies at the university, where I studied the Bachelor of Commerce and the Bachelor of Advanced Studies, majoring in marketing and design. In terms of my studies, I guess like back in high school, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. I was tossing up between, you know, should I do a degree in business? Should I do a degree in design? Should I do a degree in advertising? Kind of just like thinking of all different things. But I think for me, going to open day, kind of exploring my different options, I was like, okay, you know what? I really want to go to Sydney. Kind of seeing the campus life, seeing the different kind of range of study areas I can combine my degree in. So I'm not only studying business, for example. So that kind of flexibility is definitely what I really wanted. And also being able to go overseas. Now, unfortunately, that might not be very soon, but hopefully in the future, hopefully borders will open soon. You'll also be able to have that experience. So those are kind of some of the things that I was kind of having to think about when it came to studying and choosing university. But Sydney was the place to do that. And that was through the Bachelor of Commerce being able to, not only study business, so being able to combine studies in marketing with a second major in design, because I was kind of interested in that creative space, being able to go on international experiences, so being able to go on exchange, study tours, and also being able to get experience outside the classroom. So it's not just, working on assignments and all that, actually being able to, work with industry partners on a range of different projects with client briefs, just getting a hands-on experience is pretty much exactly what I wanted. So in terms of this timeline, I know there's quite a few different points here and there, a few pictures, but that kind of just is a snapshot of kind of my university experience. It feels weird kind of looking back at these pictures because it honestly feels like yesterday. But it was a very exciting time. When it came to, I guess, when I first started, I didn't have that many friends who kind of studied at Sydney. But I think the best way to do that is to, join as many clubs and societies, try to meet as many people as you can when it comes to, group assignments or when you're in class. And that's kind of what led me to, joining the actual business society, because it was a great way to meet people, like-minded people in the faculty, as a faculty society. And that pretty much led up to becoming director, which at first I was like, no, I'm not going to get, I'm like, you know what, why not just give it a go? And that suddenly just happened. And then a lot of other things kind of spilled from there. But just kind of thinking backwards in terms of kind of studying, or why I studied at Sydney, I think just going back to the point where I mentioned how I wasn't particularly too sure which degree or which uni I want to study at. I think thinking about studying at Sydney and, always aspiring, being like, this is going to be my dream university. I did come across, looking at the marks, I was like, oh, am I going to be able to get the ATAR to get in? I'm pretty sure this question always comes up to everyone's mind, being like, am I going to get the marks to get in? What options do I have? And it's great to see all of you here as well, being able to kind of explore these different options and what pathways are available. And to me, I actually came across the E12 pathway. And I came across this with my friend actually telling me. I did actually find out through other means. And I was like, just give it a go, because, there's so many options out there. And, after what Heather and Nadia mentioned about the different pathways available, these are pathways that are in place to support you. And particularly if you are eligible, I do encourage you to apply, because again, you never know where you end up. And I certainly wouldn't picture myself, undertaking all these different experiences, being able to study at Sydney, let alone even being able to get the financial support that I was able to get from the university. So I do encourage you all to, explore the different options out there. But yeah, with the E12 scheme, it was great, being able to get an offer before I even got my final marks, and being able to have that reassurance was really key, because it kind of puts your mind at ease, particularly during that that challenging time. But at the same time as well, just knowing that when you do start at university, you do have the scholarship to support you. At the same time, you also get, the mentoring as well, which the business school also provides, and the range of other support services that the university and the faculty offers as well is definitely something to look out for. So again, just pretty much my piece of advice is just definitely to seize every opportunity out there, particularly when it comes to not only these university pathways, but also when you're at university. So yeah, in terms of my timeline, after joining these different societies, it's a good way to take a break from the classroom. I always wanted to go overseas as part of my degree. So when I first stepped foot on campus, I was like, nah, I definitely want to go on exchange. I want to go, I don't know, somewhere far away from my parents, because, I haven't traveled that much out of Australia or Asia. So I was like, I want to go somewhere far. And I picked the UK, which is great. It was a great experience, met a lot of people. And I also had the chance to also take subjects outside of business. So beyond my interests in marketing and design, I took some subjects in, transport studies and media, because those were kind of my other interests. So I was like, why not? If you have the opportunity to try out these different subjects, you should do that, because again, these are opportunities for you to, leverage and harness. After that, again, the traveling didn't stop. The year after that, I went to China as part of the Future Business Study Tour, which was offered by the business school. And it was a great way to, immerse myself in Chinese culture, but specifically business culture, and being able to kind of, visit a few different corporations and businesses, meeting a few executives from those different companies, and also being able to kind of reflect on kind of the different nuances between business practices of what I thought here in Australia compared to those in China. Another unique thing about the University of Sydney is that we do have these industry and community project units, or ICPUs for short. And I undertook one of these with Bain & Company, which is a global consulting firm. And that was about, I think it was about sustainability. So again, a great way to, you know, have that hands-on experience working with a industry partner, and a large one, reputable one. But at the same time, also working with students from different areas of study and different faculties, because, you know, just because you're doing a business degree doesn't necessarily mean that you're only going to be working with business graduates or surrounding yourself with those studying the same space. Because, you know, when you graduate, you'll be working with people from different backgrounds and disciplines. I can speak from experience right now, even though it's a, you know, it's a marketing agency, not everyone's actually studying marketing. Some people are doing psychology, some people are doing design, some people have an arts background. So it's definitely reflective of what the, you know, true workplace is. And, you know, people will say it's the future of work. You're not only going to be surrounded by, you know, business graduates if you're studying business, or law graduates if you're studying law. It's a interdisciplinary workplace. And this is what the university is all about, where you're actually able to combine, you know, different areas of interest and study as part of your degree, and also being able to work with people with different interests and different backgrounds. And yeah, that's pretty much, and then after that, you know, 2020, last year, COVID, all of that mostly was online. You know, being able to have that experience as well was quite interesting, you know, seeing kind of that whole pivot from face-to-face learning to online learning, kind of having those abilities to kind of, you know, work with people from, again, different backgrounds and different disciplines, but only online, which is very interesting. But again, it's important because it teaches you all these skills which you definitely wouldn't think of, because, you know, normally you'd be studying in class or in person, but then even right now, you know, not only has class pivoted to online, but also everyone's working online. All of us right now in different places around Sydney. And that's, again, you know, it's kind of the future of work. It just teaches you to be flexible, teaches you to be agile. And, you know, you never kind of realize how these little experiences or these little nuances when you're learning and whatnot can kind of carry you through the rest of your career in life. But yeah, pretty much that's my experience. Hopefully you find it insightful. If you do have any questions, I do encourage you to put them in the Q&A, and we'll try to answer them later in the session.
Thank you so much, Vince. You've gone, oh, sorry, previous slide still. You've gone into great detail. You've actually taken away some of the questions that I wanted to ask you to expand on, which is wonderful, because I think, you know, you obviously, I can hear in your voice that you talk with a lot of passion about your journey and your time at the university. So that's always, you know, wonderful to see and hear. And I'm sure our students appreciate your, you know, sharing those insights with them. But just on a couple of things that you mentioned, I know you started off with, in your Bachelor of Commerce, you did actually do 2 majors within the business school, but you decided to change your major. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, and maybe also how that the share pool comes into it? Because we mentioned the share pool earlier, and I know you obviously already gave example of how, you know, the university as well as the Bachelor of Commerce do allow students to cater for different, you know, interests. But I just thought it would be an interesting insight to share with the students.
Yeah, definitely. So when I started, I was like, okay, you know what, I want to do something in marketing because it's like the creative side of business. And then with international business, I was like, oh, you know, I really want to work overseas someday. So I'm like, international business kind of just made sense to take those 2 majors. But yeah, just on that point, having completed one subject in international business, I was like, maybe this isn't for me. I was like, I didn't necessarily like it. And I'm glad that I kind of identified that early in my uni degree, so that I was actually able to, you know, figure out what my other options were. I did a lot of degree planning, which is definitely something that I'll endorse. I'm sure everyone in this panel will also endorse you to plan your degree, because it's very important. And it was pretty much essential for me to be able to fit all these different experiences, but at the same time also, you know, identifying that I wanted to change my major as soon as possible so I could make that change to design. And then I was like, oh, design is a major offered by the School of Architecture, Design and Planning. And I figured, you know, I kind of like that kind of space. It wasn't necessarily business, but at the same time, being able to combine these different areas of interest was definitely another big draw card for me coming to study at Sydney, but at the same time at the business school as well, because I was able to get a business degree, but at the same time being able to study outside of the faculty by combining my marketing major with design, because it kind of works hand in hand when you look at, creating like marketing strategies or proposals, but at the same time having a design thinking mindset, being able to kind of think with that kind of particular way, kind of works and complements each other. And I know friends who, do really, really weird kind of combinations of majors and minors or majors, but that's the nature of it. You have the opportunity to kind of combine and design a degree based on your interests. You might as well just take that opportunity, whether it's going to be a language or archaeology, biology, or even something in health or engineering. You do have the opportunity kind of to tailor and design your degree based on your interests. So that flexibility with the commerce degree enabled me to do that. And it's definitely something that I encourage you to explore.
Yeah, so exactly like you said, this flexibility is quite unique to the University of Sydney and also in our Bachelor of Commerce degree. And I think the other takeaway for our students who are sort of still deciding or maybe unsure what they are wanting to pursue, the key takeaway is you don't have to have all the answers right now, and you can still, even after you commence, have scope to obviously explore and try different units, different majors, and then sort of find your way while you're studying your first and second year with us during your university journey. So I think that's a good story to share with our students, to say that you don't necessarily have to have all the answers, and it's not the end of the world if you commit to a particular study area when you start with us, let's say in week 1, and then you decide it's not actually for me, I want to change my mind. That's definitely okay. So the other thing that I wanted to follow up with you, I know you fit so many different exchange and project unit and all these extra things that in your 4-year degree. I wanted to ask you, what's your sort of key takeaway, or was there like a common theme of things that you learn and you sort of experience throughout all these extra or out of classroom learning experience during your time at Sydney?
I would say, I guess one of the key takeouts, because a lot of people ask, how did I fit all these experiences and opportunities in? I think just going back to my point before, which is about planning your degree. I remember I sat in a welcome week session beginning of my degree where one of the staff members mentioned to plan your degree, because it's very crucial, very critical, because you'll want to graduate on time. It's not the same as high school where everything's kind of done for you and organized for you. You just kind of have to pick a few subjects. It is similar, but at the same time, you could be doing subjects that might not necessarily count towards your degree, or it can cause a few problems later down the track. While that's not very common, it's very important to explore those. It's called a handbook, which you probably find out a bit more when you do Discover University. Kind of just like looking at those different guides and speaking to relevant people at the university, just to plan your degree. So okay, at this semester I need to be doing this subject. At this semester I want to go overseas or do a placement program, just so that you're fulfilling the requirements of your degree. So when you do graduate, you graduate in time and you fulfill the requirements in order to attain that. In terms of a common theme, I would say I didn't necessarily have a common theme. I knew that I wanted to go overseas, and I was kind of like, let's just try fit in as many international experiences as I can. Secondly, I was like, okay, not everything is about doing a normal subject or typical subject. I want to get some hands-on experience with some industry partners, and since there's so many different opportunities available at the business school at the university, I was like, okay, why not give that a shot? Similarly with all the clubs and societies, I didn't know that many people when I first started, and at the same time, it's like you want to meet people, not only those in your degree, but those who have similar interests, those who are older than you, who can provide you with some tips or become a mentor. So that's why I kind of joined all those different societies, kind of build those friendship groups and networks, because it's very important just to kind of meet people. You never know when you end up being in the same group as them, or being in the same class, or you might even end up working with them sometime in the future. So it's just for me, it's just harnessing every single opportunity, seizing those opportunities, because there's so much there. Sometimes I think back, I'm like, oh, should I have done this? Should I have done that? But like definitely right now, I'm glad I did all those international experiences, because I have a few friends who had planned to go overseas, and given that they were about to finish, it was quite unfortunate that they weren't able to have that particular experience, because it's it's life-changing. You learn a lot from them, and particularly when there's so much support as well available from the university, with the scholarships, being able to go with friends, it's just not the same when you finish, to say the least. But yeah, just seizing those opportunities.
No, that's great advice. Thanks, Vince. And since this session is particularly on pathway, and you are one of our greatest, E12, and one of our many great E12 and IBB recipients. So I just wanted to ask you a little bit more on that, and how Nadia, Heather, and the team's been able to support you throughout your time, and what are some of the additional things that you're able to get, throughout your, I guess, journey from the E12 and the IBB program.
So yeah, there's just, I feel like just the E12 and the IBB program, both together, just provide so much support, from the moment I started all the way to the moment that I finished. I think, the main thing is first being able to, enter degree, knowing that you have a conditional offer before, you receive your results, provides you with that reassurance. You do also get those adjustment factors as well. So you'd be able to get in with a lower ATAR. So, for someone like myself, I wasn't particularly too sure what my ATAR was going to be. I didn't go to a selective school. I kind of went to a school with mixed ability. So I had no idea how I was performing. My school didn't provide me with a estimated ATAR, so I literally had no idea how I was tracking and whether I'll be able to get in. So I was like, just give it a shot. And then I remember, sitting through those interviews, I was like, okay, they want to interview me. I'm like, okay, got to prepare for that, which is pretty much a normal process. And then from the moment I started, having the ability to have not only, normal business school mentoring, but as a IBB recipient, you also get a dedicated mentor as well, which is really useful to kind of, get those tips and tricks, and those little kind of uni hacks that people would normally don't tell you, particularly academics, which is good to know, because you get to hear from, a different perspective. And that's the thing, it's kind of like a little family, I'd say. It's kind of like a support network. Some of us still talk today, some of us still stay connected, which is great, because, we kind of pretty much started together, this little kind of family or bubble, and then we kind of huddled around other different groups, but we always knew that there was kind of a little small support network that we can always go to, which is great. And at the same time as well, with the range of different scholarships that are on offer as part of that, which is really useful, because whether it's going to be for textbooks, whether it's going to be for, you never know, even OPAL, for example, but at the same time, being able to harness that financial support. So if you do want to go overseas, is great, because you do get that additional support depending on what type of international experiences, which is really helpful. Kind of puts at ease kind of the financial constraints when it comes to traveling overseas and studying abroad. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think back, I'm like, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that support. I don't think I'll be on these different experiences. I don't think I would have met some of the great people that I would have met. And even just as a entry pathway, I don't know if I would even be studying at Sydney if it wasn't for that, because I just would have thought, I wouldn't be good enough, or wouldn't have the marks to get into Sydney. So kind of, provided me with that pathway, and that support as well for me to excel in my degree, but at the same time being able to, put me in a good position, so that I can kind of, do the best that I can, which is great.
Thank you, Vince. Yeah, my last question to you, and just conscious of time, we're going to have to move on and wrap up. My last question originally was, what tip do you have for our audience? But I think you already covered that quite a lot. And based on what you've just shared with us also, would it be accurate for me to say the tip is just to give it a shot, put in an application? Because like yourself, you never know, even if you think your ATAR is a little bit below, you gave it a shot, and here you are, graduate now. So would you say that's one of the tips that you would offer our audience?
Yeah, I'd say that's my main tip, which is, pretty much just to seize every opportunity. If you think you're eligible, or you kind of I don't know whether I'll get in, I don't know whether I have the marks, or I don't know whether this program is for me, just, why not? It might not even take you that much time, and you know, that 10, 15, 1 hour that you invest in, you know, a day might, you know, lead you to this, you know, whole new experience, this whole new life ahead of you. It might take you different corners around the world. You might meet all these new people, you know, you just never know where it might take you. So definitely encourage you all to, you know, harness those opportunities, see what's out there. There's so much out there for you to, you know, take part and enjoy. And I think even for me, I'm like, I should have done this, should have done that. So I definitely encourage you to, you know, just harness every single opportunity, just give it a shot, because, you know, you never know where you might end up. So.
Excellent advice. Thank you, Vince. We could keep going on, but just mindful of time, I think we better move on. Thank you again. We might come back to you later in the Q&A if we do have questions from our audience for you. So before we go to the Q&A portion of the session, I do have something that I would like to share with you, and that's our Future Innovators Awards, or FIA. Basically, this is a scheme that's open exclusively to Year 12 students. So as long as you're studying in New South Wales, whether you're domestic or international, in a New South Wales school, you are eligible to apply. Essentially, it's a program that we offer every year. We did launch it last year, so this is now the second year that we're running this, and it's an opportunity for you to engage with us and our academics even before you commence. It's also a way for you to start thinking and harnessing some of those skills that, you know, Vince and all our speakers have mentioned that would be needed as future students of, you know, business students in University of Sydney, as well as a, you know, business career, the career that you'll build in the business world in the future. So all you need to do is basically submit a, previous slide, please. All you need to do is to submit a business solution to a social problem, and there's information in the next slide on how you can do that online. We are basically looking for the future leaders of tomorrow, and if you have an idea that's built on our theme of leadership for good, we would like to hear from you. As I said, it is open to all Year 12 New South Wales students. And the winners will get highly considered for our Sydney Scholars Program or Sydney Scholars Award, and also exclusive career development opportunities. So next slide, please. Here we have Varun, who is one of our FIA recipients from last year, who's now commenced with us in our Bachelor of Commerce and BAS for DL. His idea was basically similar to Uber Eats and Manulock, but instead of just ordering food like we all do, especially in lockdown, he has delivered a little app that would allow consumer to also sponsor a meal of their choice to a disadvantaged household. So I'm linking it back to this whole leadership for good. If you do have an idea that has a social impact, we would like to hear from you. And this is the QR code where if you scan or if you go to the web link that's on the slides now, you'll be able to find more information on our website, and then the online application form for this FIA scheme is also available. So we will also be sharing this information with all your schools and careers advisors, so keep an eye out on that. But basically, this is an exclusive, you know, launch of the program that, you know, you come along today and we would like to share with you. But you know, if you just Google it also, FIA or Future Innovators Award on our website, you'll be able to find the information. So it is closing on the 30th of September. So there's plenty of time between now and then. So we would love to hear from you. And yeah, get applying. Also, before we wrap up, Joe, next slide, please. And next one. Next one. Yep. Before we wrap up, I also like to highlight, and Vince sort of mentioned this earlier, that we will be running our open day on the 28th of August. Unfortunately, with the Sydney situation in Sydney at the moment, this year it will be an online open day. If you go to our website, there'll be more information on there. Essentially, colleagues like Nadia and Heather and many of our academics will be online, similar to, you know, the Zoom that you're in now, and will be on hand to answer any additional question that you may have or you sort of think of after today, or if you want to invite your friends or your parents to come along, then that's a great opportunity that day to come along and ask more questions of us. Other upcoming events is also available, listed on the web link there in front of you. So if we might now, I might now go quickly to the Q&A, and thank you so much. There's been lots of questions that's come through. Some of the questions are quite similar, so I might throw some of them to Nadia and Heather to begin with. They relate to the E12 and Broadway scheme. One of the questions from Priya is this automatically through UAC, or do we have to apply through the UAC website? UCIT website, sorry.
So applications for E12 go through the UAC website, but you'll also be able to find more information, and I'll certainly drop the link in for this as well. But you'll be able to find more information about that on our E12 website, but there's a series of questions that sit there in UAC.
Excellent.
And it's also where you'll upload documents as well, demonstrating that financial disadvantage.
Thank you, Heather. So there's additional, is the E12 scheme in addition to EAS and SRS, or are they the same?
No, so the two of them would be separate. So the academic excellence scheme, that sits there as one adjustment factor for performance in maths and English, and then E12 is another one again. And rather than students, or rather than applicants stacking adjustment factors, depending on which ones apply, we will apply the most favourable one for students. So for example, if they have ended up on around an 85 and they have applied for and are eligible for E12, then that's the pathway through which they'd be able to join.
Thank you. There's a couple of questions on maths prerequisite. Rather than sort of addressing them individually, what I might get, Heather, if you don't mind, if we can get that link for the maths prerequisite and you can drop it into the chat box for our students, that would be terrific. So that would help answer quite a few of those questions that's come through on maths prerequisite. If after looking at the website, if you're still unsure of what that information means, then please do come along to our open day, and there'll be many staff on hand that day to be able to sort of explain that or expand on what you read on the website for you. Unfortunately, for the purpose of this session, we wanted to focus a little bit more on the pathway rather than the maths prerequisite and other sort of entry requirements. There are a couple of other questions sort of, well, here's one for you, Vince. What kind of skills would a high school student aspiring to study business would benefit from when you went through, you know, for your year 12 experience, and then obviously now subsequent to your journey at UCIT? Thinking back, do you think there's anything that some of these high school students in our audience might benefit from in their final year or year 11 and 12?
I wouldn't say there's any kind of particular like skills, or at least knowledge skills. I know maths is one, but that's a prerequisite, so you should be, you know, fulfilling those requirements anyway. But I think, yeah, just definitely having, you know, a passion for what you're doing, you know, knowing it's okay to not know what you want to do exactly, but as long as you're kind of passionate in that space and have like a rough idea, you can kind of figure all that out once you're at university. And it's kind of that good testing ground as well to kind of see and explore, you know, different interests, different study areas, because that's what that time is for. So yeah, I think just having an open mind, just having roughly an idea of what you might like or potential areas that you might want to explore at university, and then potentially just, you know, doing additional research. I think it's good to know beforehand, particularly if you have, you know, if you're applying for any of the entry schemes or scholarship applications. It's always good to have kind of that background research in terms of like knowing a bit about the university, how it might relate to you. Any particular areas that might interest you or anything that you want to pursue at university kind of just shows that you are dedicated, you have done your research, you're interested, most importantly. So yeah, that would be my piece of advice.
That's great. And I think many in our audience obviously have taken the first right step by coming along to the session today. But like I said earlier, if you do have questions after today, unfortunately, we're not able to sort of cater to everyone individual question, then please do come along to our open day on the 28th of August. So just before we wrap up, there's a couple of questions sort of in generally about how you combine different areas. So accounting as a major, yes, definitely you can do accounting as a major. If you then want to do accounting and another major, either within the business school or outside of the business school, yes, definitely within the 3-year Bachelor of Commerce, you'll be able to fit in 2 majors. And definitely if you do pursue the 4-year Bachelor of Commerce and BAS, you'll have plenty of space to fit in, 2 majors and maybe some additional unit as well. I saw there was another question from student earlier that can I also do subjects not major and minor, but just take subjects outside? Yes, definitely. You can sort of take experiment and just take a couple of units here and there. They won't count as a major or a minor, but definitely as long as you can fit it into your degree, we would, allow students to do that within the degree. So I think that's it for today's session. A couple of those questions are quite similar, and hopefully we've been able to address most of the major question that has come through. I do apologize if we're not able to, but come along to Open Day. We hope to see you again. And I would like to, before we wrap up, thank our lovely guest speakers, Vince, Nadia, and Heather for joining us today. And we look forward to welcoming you to either the Open Day or seeing you again at the Open Day, or welcoming you next year into our campus and into our classroom. Thank you, everyone.